I thought I'd found a really nerdy Easter egg on the Fury from the Deep animations. Welcome to Luke Overthinks. So a lot of you will have got this when it came out in the autumn. I waited till Christmas, and I've just finished watching all 6 episodes of Fury from the Deep in animated form. And this was possibly the first missing story that I heard on audio, because it was released on audio cassette with Tom Baker narrating. Sadly, that's not on the Blu-ray like the Colin Baker one was on Macro Terror. But there's loads of really great stuff on the discs. I have not got any further than watching the story itself, so extras still to be viewed. And Gary Russell and his team have done a great job on this. If you're a purist, you'll want to watch the Recon anyway. But I think more artistic license has been taken with this. The sheer scale of the refinery just is beyond what they could have accomplished at the time. But it gives the story a visual scope that is grand. I think the weed creature almost certainly looks more menacing and is capable of movement that it just wouldn't have been capable of in the studio. So in many ways, the story is enhanced. Obviously, we are still very limited with the character animation, which is not a criticism, it's just a factor of the budget and the timescale that these productions are being made to, that you're just never going to get a performance that is comparable to what we got from the actors on set, which means that we are left with their vocal performances amply illustrated. The one odd thing about this is that Troughton's been given green eyes, which I'm not sure whether that was just a decision because it's a Fury of the Deep, it's a green story, so they've given him green eyes. Don't know. I mean, it works, but it's odd when you notice it. You're like, well, hang on, he's got blue eyes, and he's got blue eyes in the rest of the animations thus far. So, I know, and obviously this is Troughton animation incarnation. I don't know now. There've been so many different incarnations of the Troughton Doctor in animated form. This is yet another one, looking slightly different from how he has in the past. Jamie in particular looks rather different from how he has done in the past. And I guess this will be Victoria's second incarnation, having previously appeared in the Ice Warriors animation. So we'll see how things develop as those go on. But yes, I'm thoroughly satisfied with being able to see a visual version of Fury from the Deep, which if you'd said to any fan more than a few years ago that we would start seeing full-length missing stories animated, we'd have been, well, what? I mean, obviously if you go back even further to pre the invasion, we're like, animated missing episodes? Nah. It was just recons, and not great recons at that I first experienced a lot of these stories via, and so it's great to see where we've come over the last 30 years that I've been into Doctor Who. So on to the geeky Easter egg. There's lots in this. There's more posters with Roger Delgado's face on, and wanted posters like we had in the faceless ones. The speakers that you see in the complex are made by International Electromatics, so a nod to the invasion. I'm sure there are others that I've not spotted. But this one I thought was quite interesting. Early on in the story there's a calendar which establishes that the story takes place in 1975. And there's nothing in the dialogue at all to tell you what year this is happening in. And I don't know what year it was intended to happen in originally. I don't know whether there's anything visual. Pop it in the comments if you know whether there's any definitive evidence to say what year Fury from the Deep happened in. Anyway, this version is set in 1975. And there's a scene in episode 5 where Robson takes Victoria to the airfield and then is chased by the Doctor and Jamie. And they both drive, well, the Doctor and Jamie have driven in Minimokes, which you'll be familiar with if you've ever watched The Prisoner. It's that kind of car. And each of them has a visible license plate. And I thought, oh, okay, that's exactly the kind of place that I would hide an Easter egg in if I was going to do that. So this requires a little bit of explanation, particularly if you're not from the UK, as to how our license plates work. The period during which the story is set is 1963 to 1983. That was a period of a particular format of license plate. And each number plate would have 3 letters, a space, and then 3 numbers and a letter. So here are the two number plates that you see in the story. And you'll see that they are what we would call an M-reg and an N-reg. So the letter at the end in this case is how you identify the year in which the car was registered. So the M-reg is 1973 to 74, and the N-reg is 1974 to 75. So these two cars are new cars as far as this story is concerned. These are fictional number plates though. But the other piece of information that you can glean from the number plate is looking at the last two letters of those first three. And that will tell you, if you look it up on, I found there was a Wikipedia page with a listing of them all, that will tell you where in the country it was registered. So I thought, I wonder if there's anything interesting there. And it just so happens that at the time, HE was a two-letter combination that designated Sheffield, and BO was a two-letter combination that designated Cardiff. And I thought, well, that can't be a coincidence. That must be a deliberate nod to the current series of Doctor Who. So I thought, this is cool. I will post a Twitter thread about this discovery that I've made, showing my nerdy credentials, and I'll tag Gary Russell at the end of it, which is what I did. And he very kindly responded, and it turned out that this wasn't entirely a coincidence. And that what the number plates actually represent are the years of birth and the initials of his two co-executive producers. Just as an aside, it also occurred to me that in the UK, we have a government website which allows you to put the number plate of any car in and check whether it has been taxed, which is a legal obligation, and whether it has its MOT, which is another legal obligation. It's useful if you've forgotten about your own car. Anyway, I thought, well, let's find a car in Doctor Who that's a genuine real car. So I looked at the VW Beetle that appears in Rose that Mickey drives, and it's an R-Reg, which is a very similar period to the two Minimokes that we're talking about, but this time a genuine car. And indeed, if you search on the website, it does still exist. It is registered there. It is declared as off-road and has been for the last 4 or 5 years. So if you're interested in the status of any car that you can find a number plate for in Doctor Who, head over to that website and you'll see what it is doing today. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed that level of nerdery. Join me next week for a video about the Great Escape card game and actually being organised and planning ahead. Basically identifying that this is, if you knock the 1 off the front of the year, the numbers represent the year of birth and the letters represent the initials of the two people who co-exec produced the story with him. And I've just knocked that off.